In the ever-evolving landscape of the modern workplace, the ability to communicate persuasively and rationally is more critical than ever. Throughout this narrative, we will examine the importance of understanding your audience's hierarchy of values, clarifying your communication objectives, and presenting ideas through logical progression. We will also explore the delicate role emotions play in decision-making and how to navigate them effectively. Additionally, we will tackle the challenge of overcoming fallacies, both in your own thinking and in the arguments of others. Finally, we will discuss the vital importance of integrity and authenticity in all your professional communications. By mastering these principles, you will be equipped to influence, inspire, and align your colleagues towards shared goals and a more productive work environment. Let us embark on this journey of discovery together as we seek to unlock the power of rational persuasion. Part 1. Identifying your audience's hierarchy of values. When it comes to understanding the fundamentals behind communicating to persuade and align others in the workplace, we must first begin with the most crucial aspect: identifying your audience's hierarchy of values. This concept might sound abstract at first, but it is actually quite straightforward. Each of us holds a unique set of values that guide our thoughts, decisions, and actions. Values are the goals, desires, and beliefs that we consider important or worthwhile. They can be as diverse as the pursuit of knowledge, career success, family happiness, or personal freedom. Your audience's hierarchy of values refers to the order of importance they place on these values. For instance, one person might prioritize their family above all else, while another might value their professional growth most highly. To effectively communicate, it is essential to understand this hierarchy. This is because people are more likely to be persuaded by arguments that resonate with their deeply held values. By knowing what matters most to your audience, you can frame your ideas and arguments in a way that highlights how your perspective aligns with and supports their values. However, this is not a simple task. People often do not consciously articulate their values, let alone arrange them in a hierarchy. As such, you must learn to identify these values through careful observation and active listening. Look for patterns in their behavior, listen to their concerns, and pay attention to the issues that spark their passion. Remember, values are deeply personal and often emotionally charged. Do not make assumptions about what others value based on stereotypes or your own beliefs. Instead, approach this process with an open mind and a commitment to understanding their perspective. To help you identify these values, consider asking questions that probe their motivations and priorities. For example, why is this issue important to you? Or what do you hope to achieve in this situation? The answers to these questions can provide valuable insights into their value system. Once you have a grasp of your audience's hierarchy of values, you can then tailor your communication strategy accordingly. This might mean leading with certain arguments or examples that you know will resonate with them, or emphasizing the aspects of your proposal that align most closely with their values. In doing so, you demonstrate empathy and respect for their viewpoint, increasing the likelihood that they will listen to and consider your perspective. After all, persuasive communication is not about manipulation, but about finding common ground and presenting your ideas in a compelling and rational manner. Part 2. Clarifying the objective of communication. The second fundamental aspect of persuasive communication is to clarify the objective of your message. It is often said that clarity is power, and this is especially true when attempting to align others to your viewpoint. Before you begin to communicate, take a moment to consider, what is it that you wish to achieve? Are you trying to inform, persuade, or inspire? Each of these objectives requires a different approach. If your goal is to inform, ensure that your message is clear, concise, and free of unnecessary complexity. Use language that is appropriate for your audience, avoiding jargon or technical terms whenever possible. Provide examples or analogies that illustrate your points, making them easier to understand. When persuading, you must also appeal to your audience's emotions. This is not to say that you should manipulate their feelings, but rather that you should present your arguments in a way that speaks to their self-interest. Show them how your perspective can help them achieve their values or avoid pain and hardship. Inspiring others, on the other hand, often involves tapping into their higher values, such as a sense of purpose, justice, or personal growth. Paint a vivid picture of the potential positive outcomes that can be achieved if your ideas are implemented. A common mistake people make is to assume that their objective is self-evident, or that their audience will automatically understand it. This can lead to confusion and frustration on both sides. Be explicit about what you hope to accomplish, and make sure your message is structured in a way that supports this goal. This clarity of objective also extends to your body language and tone. These nonverbal cues can often communicate more than your words alone. Maintain eye contact, speak confidently, and use gestures that reinforce your points. Another essential and often overlooked aspect of clarity is understanding the context in which your communication takes place. This includes the social, cultural, and professional environment, as well as the specific circumstances surrounding the issue at hand. By being aware of these contextual factors, you can avoid misunderstandings and ensure that your message is received as intended. For example, a lighthearted or humorous approach may be appropriate in some situations, while a more serious tone is required in others. In summary, to be an effective communicator, you must have a clear and well-defined objective, and you must present your message in a way that is easily understood by your audience, taking into account their values, emotions, and the broader context of the conversation. Part 3. Presenting ideas through logical progression. Presenting ideas through logical progression is a crucial, yet often underestimated aspect of persuasive communication. This principle is rooted in the fact that the human mind works by forming connections between concepts, moving from the simple to the complex. To be effective, your arguments must be built upon a solid foundation of easily grasped ideas. Each point should logically flow from the one before it, like links in an unbroken chain. This is not to say that you should oversimplify your message. Rather, you should strive to break down complex ideas into manageable parts, introducing them in a way that allows your audience to follow along and draw their own conclusions. A common pitfall here is to assume that your audience shares your background knowledge, or that they will intuit the connections between your points. Always remember to provide the necessary context and explain any assumptions you are making. Moreover, be mindful of the ladder of abstraction, a tool that helps you navigate between concrete examples and abstract principles. When introducing a new concept, start with a specific instance that illustrates the idea, then gradually move to more general statements. This helps your audience to climb the ladder with you, ensuring they fully understand each step before moving on to the next. For instance, if you are discussing the importance of productivity, you might begin with a story about a successful project you completed, then discuss the habits and processes that contributed to that success, and finally, present the broader Reuters principle that efficient time management leads to greater productivity and achievement. By presenting your ideas in a logical progression, you help your audience to see the big picture and understand the rationale behind your arguments. This not only increases their comprehension, but also their trust in your judgment and expertise. However, remember that people are not always logical creatures. Emotions can often cloud judgment or derail a rational discussion. In these cases, it may be necessary to address the emotional component of the conversation before proceeding with your logical argument. Part 4. The role of emotions in persuasion. Emotions are the automatic responses of our consciousness to the events and circumstances we encounter. They are a form of value judgments that provide us with instant feedback about our environment, alerting us to potential threats or opportunities. While emotions are a crucial aspect of the human experience, they are not a substitute for reason. Emotions are the products of our value judgments, not the source of them. It is our rational faculty that must ultimately guide our decisions and actions. When communicating to persuade, it is essential to recognize the power of emotions, as they can significantly impact how your message is received. People are more likely to be receptive to ideas that evoke positive feelings and more resistant to those that evoke negative ones. However, this does not mean that you should attempt to manipulate your audience's emotions. Emotional appeals must be grounded in the reality of the situation and the facts of the matter. To effectively harness the power of emotions in your communication, start by identifying the emotions that are likely to be present in your audience. Are they excited, fearful, angry, or hopeful about the topic at hand? Once you have identified these emotions, you can tailor your message to address and acknowledge them. For example, if your audience is fearful about a potential change in the workplace, you might begin by empathizing with their concerns, then present a positive vision of the future that alleviates those fears and replaces them with hope. It is also important to be aware of your own emotions, as they can influence the way you communicate. If you are anxious or frustrated, it may be helpful to take a moment to regain your composure before continuing the conversation. In essence, emotions are a vital part of the human experience, and they play a significant role in how we perceive and respond to information. As a communicator, your task is to understand and navigate this emotional landscape, using it to support your rational arguments, rather than allowing it to overwhelm or distort them. Part 5. Overcoming common fallacies and obstacles. This is a critical skill in persuasive communication. A fallacy is a mistake in reasoning that can lead to invalid or misleading arguments. There are two primary sources of fallacies: those that originate from the communicator and those that arise from the audience. To be effective, you must be aware of both and know how to address them. When it comes to fallacies in your own reasoning, the key is to constantly challenge your assumptions and ensure that your arguments are logically sound. This requires a commitment to rationality and a willingness to revise your views in light of new information or evidence. With your audience, the challenge is to identify and disarm any fallacious thinking that might prevent them from understanding or accepting your perspective. This often involves asking probing questions that help them to see the flaws in their own reasoning. For example, if an audience member is resorting to an ad hominem attack, focusing on your character rather than the merits of your argument, you might respond by saying, "I appreciate your concern about my motives, but let's focus on the ideas being presented here. How do you feel about the points I've made so far?" Another common obstacle is the straw man fallacy, where your opponent misrepresents your argument to make it easier to attack. To counter this, restate your position clearly and accurately, highlighting the differences between what you actually said and their misrepresentation. Remember, the goal is not to win the argument, but to help your audience see the truth of your position. This means remaining calm, respectful, and focused on the issue at hand, even when faced with irrational or emotional opposition. By recognizing and addressing fallacies, you can keep the conversation on track and prevent it from devolving into unproductive tangents or personal attacks. This helps to maintain a climate of rational discourse, where ideas can be evaluated on their merits rather than on the emotions they evoke. Part 6. The importance of integrity and authenticity. The importance of integrity and authenticity in communication cannot be overstated. In a world that often seems dominated by spin and insincerity, being true to your convictions and presenting them honestly is a powerful persuasive tool. Integrity means that your words and actions are consistent with your beliefs and values. When you speak with integrity, your audience is more likely to trust you, as they see that you practice what you preach. Authenticity, on the other hand, is about being genuine and true to yourself in your communication. This does not mean that you must share all your personal feelings or beliefs, but rather that you should not present a false front or adopt views you do not truly hold in an attempt to please others. People can often sense when they are being deceived or manipulated, and this will undermine your credibility and effectiveness as a communicator. Be honest about your motivations and the limitations of your knowledge, and your audience will respect you for it. This also means being willing to admit when you are wrong. Nobody is infallible, and the mark of a rational person is their ability to revise their views in light of new evidence. If you make a mistake, own it, apologize if necessary, and move on. Finally, remember that persuasive communication is not about coercion or deceit. It is about helping others to see the truth of your position by presenting clear, logical arguments that resonate with their values and address their concerns. By combining integrity, authenticity, and a commitment to reason, you can become a powerful force for positive change in your workplace and beyond. Part 7. Conclusion. In our discussion today, we have explored the essential foundations of persuasive communication in the workplace. We have seen that understanding your audience's values, having a clear objective, presenting ideas logically, acknowledging emotions, overcoming fallacies, and maintaining integrity are all crucial elements of this skill. As you practice these principles, remember that the goal is not simply to win debates or to bend others to your will. Rather, It is to foster a culture of rationality and mutual respect, where ideas can be freely exchanged and evaluated on their merits. It is my hope that you will carry these lessons with you in your professional life, using them to build stronger relationships, drive innovation, and create a more productive and harmonious work environment. In a world that often seems to be moving away from reason and towards chaos, it is up to each of us to be champions of clear thinking and honest discourse. By mastering the art of persuasive communication, you can help to steer the course of your workplace and your life in a more rational and fulfilling direction.